Release the Kraken! So the puddle ducks aren't coming out again today. This has me worried. Hey, spicy duck. Oh, Jemima's going outside. Oh, but Samson, you're not doing too good. How's it going, old boy? Hmm? No bueno. So, Samson Puddleduck has not been doing well. And I'm really worried about him. Like, really, really worried about him. Samson Puddleduck, for those of you guys who don't know our farm, he's actually an important part of this farm. He's the largest duck we have on our farm. He's a Pekin duck, he's a drake, he's a male. I mean, he's not that old. He's like even a little less than 2 years old, but I'm just noticing lately his health is failing. Over the last few weeks, he's been having more and more trouble walking. He seems more listless. I'm not 100% sure what it is, and it really just sort of breaks my heart because he's an important part of this farm. So Samson Puddleduck, he was actually hatched out by the elementary school down the road from us. I donated some eggs to them as a hatching project, and they were able to take the eggs, hatch them out, and then when they were done hatching the birds, they would give them back to me. So Samson Puddleduck, his sister Delilah Puddleduck, and then 2 khaki Campbell ducks were the result of that hatch. And ever since he showed up here on this farm, he's always been a little bit of an odd duck. He had this issue where the other ducklings were actually picking on him and eating some of his duck fuzz, and it kind of made him look weird, almost like a duck version of Batman.
I'm Batman. No, you're not. I'm Batman. Nuh-uh, dudes. I'm Batman.
But as he grew up and matured, he became a very sweet and loving duck. And what was really interesting about him was, as he got older and older, he just kept getting bigger and bigger. Like, it got to be to the point that by the time he was about, I don't know, 8 or 9 months old, he was the largest duck on the farm by far. And I was actually starting to make videos about Samson and just how freakishly big he is. In fact, on our YouTube channel, the video that has the most views, it's a video all about Samson and just how gigantic he is.
He is now grown up. He's fully grown. He is an adult drake duck. And he has just grown to be an absolutely massive duck. I mean, look at the size of him. I could barely hold him with 2 hands here. Easy, bro.
And Samson, he really is a descendant of ducks here on our farm, and so it kind of breaks my heart to see him like this. But I also know this isn't the first time I've ever seen something like this with a Pekin duck. In the fall, towards the end of our first season of raising ducks here on our farm, one of my neighbors approached me and he asked me if I wanted to take these 2 ducks that he had that he was looking to get rid of before winter. They were Pekin ducks, a male and a female, and he didn't want to have to go through the hassle of housing them over the winter. And when it comes down to it, adding 2 ducks to a flock of about 20 ducks already is no big deal. So I said sure, and I thought it might be fun to have a different breed of duck on the farm. And so that's how we ended up adopting Samuel and Jemima Puddleduck. My wife Allison came up with the names. She comes up with a lot of our animal names. And after a few days of quarantine, it was pretty easy to introduce Samuel and Jemima together with the rest of the Quacken, and they generally fit in with the rest of the flock. They were never quite as tight as the rest of the crew, but they got along just fine. There were no issues. And in fact, the first duck egg we ever had here on our farm came from Jemima Puddleduck because she laid her first egg here on the farm maybe a week after arriving. Samuel and Jemima really endured with the flock. In fact, they were the only 2 ducks that were able to be unscathed during the awful mink attack of April of 2019. Things for those next several months went pretty well, but as the summer of 2019 wore on, I noticed that Samuel Puddleduck's health was starting to fail. Samuel was a rather portly, gentle duck. He definitely liked to consume his fair share of duck feed, and given the fact that he's a Pekin duck, he put on weight very quickly. And by the fall of 2019, when it was coming time for me to butcher my geese and cull some of my adult drakes, I came to the very difficult decision that it was time to put Samuel down. And I remember as I was going through the evisceration process and I was, pulling out his organs and looking at his internal organs, you could just see it like in his organs, especially his liver and his kidneys. Like they were just fat and somewhat misformed. They almost looked like they had like these little bumps on them. And the liver itself was like engorged, maybe one of the biggest livers we've ever pulled out of a duck here on the farm. It was clear that that steady, heavy diet of duck feed was really doing a number on them. Because I believe it's important to honor the life of every animal here on the farm, we ended up actually hosting a dinner with some of our friends where we served a special dish that Allison made. That was this tremendous like French duck soup and stew recipe. And while it may seem demented and weird to many people out there that we would host a meal with friends where we ate and celebrated a duck that we loved, it actually felt very appropriate. And yeah, in case you're wondering, the whole Samson connection, so Sam, son, the son of Sam.
What do you want?
I want you to go out and kill.
Not like son of Sam that way, but... And so all of this leads me to what I'm seeing lately with Samson Puddleduck. You see, Samson has put on a lot of weight. He's lacking mobility these days. He's exhibiting all of the same behaviors that I saw with his father, Samuel. And I'm realizing that his time is getting short. So this lady right here, that's Samson's mom. And she's doing pretty good. She's the oldest duck on our farm. She's a little weird. She's a little heavier and heftier than the rest of the ducks. And she's able to get around just fine and spend the rest of her time with the flock just fine. No issues. And my guess is she's a duck who's, 5 years old maybe. And so when I look at Samson, all in all, it just really has me worried, like in a major, major way. He just sits inside the duck house like this, hiding as much as he can. His one best friend, Spicy Duck, hangs out with him and spends a lot of time with him. But it's like sympathy, because you can tell she's just very sad and concerned about him. I'm really sorry for you, big fella. I'm very worried for you, too. I mean, he's such a sweet and gentle duck. It makes me sad to see him like this. I think it makes Toby sad, too. I mean, yeah, these two ducks have been together since the day they were born. They're such tight compadres. I can't ever think of separating them, but it does make me wonder what's gonna happen to her if and when Samson passes away. Some of you guys actually might be wondering what happened to the rest of their flock. Well, Delilah Puddleduck, Samson's sister, she actually got consumed by a predator, I think maybe a bobcat. And it's actually why this here duck house is dedicated in her memory, and actually I guess technically in the memory of Samuel as well. There's even a plaque out front that a very generous viewer made to commemorate the event. See? Yay old quack house in memory of Puddleduck. It's not like Samson is totally immobile. He's just having a lot of trouble moving around right now. He doesn't seem to like to get out of the duck house. I've even found him sometimes out of the duck house and not being able to get back up the ramp. I've been doing my best to help him and make sure he has clean water and food, but I don't know. I don't think food's really his problem. I would actually say if I'm trying to take a lesson out of all this and share it with you guys around how not to let this happen to one of your ducks, it comes down to avoiding keeping pecans with the rest of your ducks. Because for my khaki Campbell ducks, right, they're good foragers. They do a great job of controlling how much they eat. They really don't get overweight. And so the feeding approach I have to take with the khaki Campbell ducks is very different than the approach with the Pekin ducks. And when it comes down to it, Samson and Jemima, they are constantly devouring food. And I pretty much think that's how Samson ended up the way he was. And so if you're gonna keep Pekin ducks, you might wanna keep them separate and very carefully control their diet, which is probably a lesson for all of us. I really wanted to make this video, not so much for you guys, but for myself. I find so often that I'll have animals on this farm that I lose, that pass away. Like my all-time favorite chicken, Margie the murder chicken. You know, when she died, that really broke my heart, and I never had a chance to say goodbye to her. Here with Samson, I am able to see his demise coming and kind of saying my goodbyes now. I don't know if I'm gonna have the guts to do it myself or if I'm just gonna let nature take its course. I think it's all gonna come down to just how much suffering he's going through. I've shared all of this information with a vet friend I have who likes to watch our channel, and she told me pretty much my hypothesis is a good one. But if you guys have any ideas or thoughts on what I do with this dilemma of do I put Samson down or do I let him live out his full life? Because he doesn't seem like he's really in pain right now and he seems generally content. Let me know down in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. You know, again, back to this idea that this farm is a community. You know, when we have a big issue like this and we want to figure out what we need to do, not that you guys make the decision, but I really always appreciate the input I get to help me make the decision. And I know there's going to be some of you guys who are saying, take him to a vet, set him aside, create a special hospital area to get him better and give him a special diet and get him into a good place. But guys, unfortunately, I can't do that. When it comes down to it, the time and effort and energy it takes to run this farm, I can't also run it like an animal sanctuary. I think it's really important to do my best to take care of the animals here and generally have good animal husbandry practices that keep them in good shape and healthy. And if there's some medical attention that Allison or I need to give them, I'll always take the opportunity to do that. But when it comes to the poultry, I can't afford to take every bird to the vet, and I can't afford to do high intensity health management for a bird or two. I'm sure that seems really callous, and even as I'm saying it, it sounds callous, but I also know it's probably very necessary. But all of that said, there's nothing keeping me from trying to celebrate the life of a legend like Samson. Last year, NPR and the BBC both did radio news stories about our farm, and both reporters were fascinated with Samson, and they were asking me about Samson and how's Samson doing. And so he's just really meant a whole lot to the people who watch this YouTube channel as well as the people who learn about our farm. And so I really do feel sad that this is the way it's going. This is sort of what happens in life. Here on our farm, we're a constant cycle of birth, growth, and death. If you can be comfortable with the birth and the growth components of it, you've also got to get yourself comfortable with the death component. Whether it's harvesting an animal for putting on somebody's supper table or dealing with a sick animal. When you have lives here on your farm, you're gonna have deaths here on your farm. Hey, Toby dog, come here. Yeah, good boy, yes! Good boy, yeah, keep it up the paws. Come here, come on, come on, give me the paw. Yes, good boy. Good pepperoni pizza. Good doggy dog, yeah. Can we get the back one? Okay.